From the gun room of the secret hidden bunker in the Rocky Mountains, I'm Michael Bain for OutdoorChannel.com and Downrange.tv. This week, the question is, if a tree falls in the forest and the mainstream media isn't there to record it, did it really happen? Well, I can assure you that one thing really happened outside the view of the mainstream media. Last week, 7,000 plus Illinois gun owners descended on the state capitol, Springfield, to tell their elected officials that they wanted the right to carry, they shall issue concealed carry, and they are tired of draconian gun laws being driven by, how might I delicately put this? Well, the maximum leader in Chicago, Richard Daley. Illinois and Hawaii are two of the last holdout states for liberalized gun laws. And iGold, the Illinois Gun Owners Lobbying Day, is a way to tell the state legislatures that Chicago doesn't control Illinois and that the gun owners in Illinois have a voice. Of course, there was no mainstream coverage of the event. There was no Chicago coverage of the event, which is pretty interesting. Maybe if iGold had brought along, I don't know, the anti-gun Jesse Jackson and two of his closest friends, the Chicago Tribune, the Chicago Sun-Times would have been there in force. And speaking of marches, we are less than a month away from the Second Amendment March in Washington, D.C. on April 19th. Of course, April 19th is the day the embattled farmer stood and fired the shot heard round the world in the beginning of the American Revolution. There's going to be a lot of great speakers, including Larry Pratt from the Gun Owners of America, Lieutenant Dave Grossman, who wrote the great books On Combat and On Killing, Susanna Hupp, former Texas legislator. You all know who she is. She lost her parents in the Luby shooting because she had put her own concealed carry firearm in the glove compartment of her car because at that time it was not legal to carry concealed in Texas. I will also be one of the speakers. I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of people there, and I hope you have a chance to join us. Washington that time of year should be absolutely beautiful. Unfortunately, none of us will be able to carry guns. Yet. In a strange bit of news this week, reported in Army Times, the Army itself has finally caught up with the soldiers. The Army has announced that they will allow soldiers to spray paint their weapons, no more black rifles, so they more easily fit into the terrain that they're assigned in. Obviously, soldiers have been doing that since the very beginning of the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, although there was an official Army policy against it. Hey, but it's the soldiers whose butts are on the ground that are at risk, and they didn't take any chances. This week, though, the Army says, whatever you guys need to keep yourself safe, we're good with that. So, hey, watch out for those painted black rifles, and no red, no pink, no mauve. Venerable ammunition and component company Hornady has leapt into the 21st century with their own YouTube channel. I know a lot of you thought that Steve Hornady Sr. couldn't even spell 21st century, but Hornady has become one of the first ammunition companies to make widespread use of social media. Hornady's also riding a wave on their super performance rifle ammunition. This ammunition bumps up 100 to 200 feet per second while staying at the standard SAAMI specs. That is, it is not super high pressure ammunition. Hornady accomplishes this through the blending of powder. And please, kids, don't try that at home. Back in the early days of practical shooting, many of us blended or mixed or stacked powder. None of us had a good result with it. So check out Hornady's YouTube. You'll be able to see some Hornady commercials as well as some of their training videos. There's a troubling item this week from Arizona, where gun rights activists are working toward permitless concealed carry, much like Vermont and Alaska. A training facility in Prescott, Insight Firearms Training Development, apparently sent out a letter to their students with a model letter to go to state legislators urging them to vote against permitless concealed carry. I think while we all agree that training is very important for concealed carry holders, in states where it is permitless, like Vermont, like Alaska, there certainly hasn't been any more trouble than in states that had a strict permitting requirement, training requirement for permitting. we have to question whether any gun organization should vote against any gun rights. We hope that Insights will clear that up. And by the way, Insights in Prescott is not to be confused with the Insight Training Center on the West Coast. Finally, authorities are searching for thieves who made off with Teddy Roosevelt's trophy walrus tusk off the mantel of his home in the historic district just outside of Oyster Bay, New York. If you have any information on Teddy's trophy tusk, now try saying that fast 5 times in a row, get in touch with us here at Downrange Television and we'll alert the appropriate tusk authorities. Until next week, be sure to visit downrange.tv where we'll have links for anything we've talked about here on the news broadcast, and outdoorchannel.com. Until then, I'm Michael Bain. Stay safe out there.